Tonight, a Melbourne man dies in a 000 meltdown. Telstra forced to say sorry. Children arrested over fire bombings in the tobacco war. Police claim they're being recruited by gangs because they're cheap. Tears for Celeste, a mum's powerful tribute in a fight for justice. Families flee as a gunman opens fire in Melbourne's north. A Gaza aid mission turns tragic, leaving more than 100 people dead. And how Melbourne motorists can beat the most volatile petrol prices in the nation.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening. A Melbourne man has died during a 000 meltdown that threw the emergency call service into chaos. He suffered a cardiac arrest when a Telstra technical failure left 148 callers struggling to get help.
It was a 90-minute outage that potentially put lives at risk. The Telstra system failure from 3:30 a.m. until 5 a.m. threw the 000 service into chaos. In that time, there were 494 calls for help.
Of those 494 calls, 148 were not able to be immediately transferred to the emergency services operators.
100 Victorians were unable to get help when they needed it the most, and one Melbourne man died after going into cardiac arrest. His family was unable to reach 000.
Can I just first offer my deepest apology to the family of that person, and in fact to anyone who was impacted in those 90 minutes.
When we don't get to them on time, we really rob them of their best possible chance of survival, and clearly that's what's happened here.
Telstra operators are the first point of contact when calling 000. They confirm callers' locations before transferring them to either police, fire or ambulance. The call then gets connected to a highly trained 000 Victoria call taker, and that's the part of the process that broke.
Obviously, it's unacceptable if there was any delay in getting that call through.
Instead, they emailed emergency call requests to 000 staff, causing critical delays.
This is happening far too often, and I am very concerned about what this will mean if Victorians lose total confidence in 000 and start taking matters into their own hands.
Now, while telecommunication outages are becoming more and more common, the Ambulance Union says a Telstra outage has never affected 000 services. Now, Ambulance Victoria will review these cases to see if patient care was affected, while the national watchdog, the Australian Communication and Media Authority, launched their own investigation into this case to see exactly what went wrong. Mitch.
Tyra Stowers in central Melbourne, thank you. Children as young as 14 have been arrested over Melbourne's underworld tobacco war. Police task force bosses say they're being recruited by gangs because they're cheap.
A car stolen, an aggravated burglary, a tobacco shop torched. All of it allegedly ordered by a gang, but not carried out by adults.
The age of these children, the context of the offending is extremely alarming.
Today, 4 were arrested. A 15-year-old boy from Springvale, a 14-year-old boy and 16-year-old girl from Mulgrave, and a 16-year-old from Pakenham.
The age of these children, the fact that we know they've been tasked via others and via senior members of the criminal fraternity is of great concern.
The Gang Crime Squad and Viper Task Force will now interview the children in relation to an aggravated burglary in Wonga Park, an attempted arson attack on a Mill Park restaurant and tobacco fire in Ballarat. Asked why children are being recruited.
A lot's to do with cost, so it's cheap. You know, and there's no real care for the children.
The arrests come as Bayside resident Rebecca Judd called out the Premier for staying quiet, while we wonder if a gang of machete-wielding youths are going to invade our homes.
Bayside is one of the safest parts of Victoria. It's, I think, the third safest LGA in the state.
Aggravated burglaries across Victoria are up 33% in the last year. Clearly not enough is being done by the Allen Labor government. I don't even think they recognise there's a problem here.
In the last 12 months, Victoria Police has made 3,000 night shift arrests as part of Operation Trinity, which focuses on youth crime. 7 News understands the worst offenders were all under 16.
Some of the things that we're going to need to do as a whole of government, whole of community to, I suppose, stop the market from occurring in the first place.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
Celeste Mano's family is promising to continue the fight for justice after her killer avoided a life sentence. They want the Court of Appeal to overturn the decision and throw away the key.
Just hours after Celeste Mano's killer avoided a life sentence, her family was back at her gravesite mourning for a second time. There's peace forevermore. Aggie DeMaro comes here most nights to have dinner next to her daughter. It was a difficult day for the family.
This was in the middle of the night, in our home. We did not know him.
Celeste's killer, Louise Seiko, got a 30-year sentence, not the maximum life sentence.
I think the people are having the most trouble grappling with is that someone who murders in this manner could someday walk out of jail and walk amongst the community again.
The crime shocked Victoria. Seiko became obsessed with Celeste, stalking her and bombarding her with hundreds of messages. Despite an intervention order, he broke into her bedroom and stabbed the 23-year-old to death while she slept. Her mother was in the next room.
Absolutely unbelievable that the court decided to grant him mercy, even though he showed Celeste none.
Many of Victoria's worst criminals have received life sentences with parole, including Burke Street killer James Gargasoulis, Adrian Bailey for the rape and murder of Jill Maher, killer father Robert Farquharson, and Eurydice Dixon's killer James Todd. The family plans to take it to the Court of Appeal, demanding they throw away the key.
If there's no chance of rehabilitation, then sometimes the court will say, well, there's no chance this person's ever going to be released.
Legal experts believe the only way the Court of Appeal would overturn Seiko's sentence is if they can be convinced he has no chance of rehabilitation, even 30 years from now.
Does this person deserve a non-parole period, or is their conduct so egregious, so offensive to the community that they can never be given the opportunity to be released from jail?
Louise Seiko will be eligible for parole when he's 65 years old in 2050. A second chance Celeste Mano will never get. Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Anthony Albanese is hinting at more cost of living relief as he fights for votes in the crucial Dunkley by-election. The Prime Minister and Peter Dutton were campaigning in Melbourne's southeast in what's expected to be a tight race, the opposition doubling down on its attack over immigration.
Campaigning with Jody, but not that Jody.
Nice to meet you, Jody.
Yeah.
The bride, the boy.
Different
Jody. My second favourite Jody.
Jody Bellier, his candidate for Dunkley, a by-election forced by the death of Labor MP Peter Murphy. Today, another 63-year-old Victorian Labor Senator Linda White.
It's just so sad.
Peter Dutton also with his candidate, local Frankston Mayor Nathan Conroy.
And you got the CIPO on as well.
Defending attacks on Immigration Minister Andrew Giles over sexual assault charges against a released detainee that have been withdrawn.
I think it's entirely reasonable that you would make that the points that we made.
If you don't worry about the facts, but you just shoot from the hip.
Mr Dutton's deputy Susan Lee doubling down, saying women worried about being assaulted by foreign criminals should vote against Labor.
As a woman, I am not taking a backward step on this, and I'm calling it out.
This is a classic desperate, grubby political scare campaign.
This is a local election, but it will have implications for the national leaders. For Peter Dutton, the first real test of whether the momentum he believes he's getting against Anthony Albanese is real or not. The local issues: high crime rates, skyrocketing rents and longer lines at food banks, as the big national issue bites.
The cost of living more than anything.
The tax cuts will help.
The Prime Minister hinting the May budget will bring more help.
We'll do what we can to put more dollars in people's pockets.
As both manage expectations and a seat Labor holds by 6.3%, a swing of half that
would be a devastating result for the Prime Minister.
By-elections are tough.
Tomorrow, they'll discover just how tough.
Mark Riley reporting. Police have now charged a second man over 2 sexual assaults on women in Richmond that sparked the political storm over freed detainees. After releasing the wrongly charged man, detectives arrested and charged a 55-year-old man from Kew. He's been bailed to appear in court in May. Families have been forced to flee a shooting in Melbourne's north. Geordie Wright has the latest from Fawkner. And Geordie, a gunman opened fire just metres from children.
Mitch, this all played out in a car park at a community sports ground next to houses and a group of children at cricket practice. Police believe it was a battle between 2 rival youth gangs, and it's the second shooting in 36 hours in Melbourne's north, this time with families caught in the middle. A hail of bullets rang out across a Fawkner reserve as terrified families ran for safety. The group of masked men ambushed 5 people in a parked car, armed with machetes, a baseball bat and a gun just before 6 last night.
I heard yelling and screaming and everyone was running around.
After the first gunshot, a male fell to the ground as his friends ran. At least 6 more shots were heard. The whole scene playing out just metres from a junior cricket practice, the players and their parents fleeing. Within 50 seconds, it was over, and residents rushed back to check on an injured male.
All we had said is, "Are you all right?" And he didn't even answer or nothing. He just said to the other people to get in the car and to leave.
Today, they searched Charles Mutton Reserve with the help of a sniffer dog. Later in the evening, a 19-year-old man from Clifton Hill took himself to the Royal Melbourne Hospital with a gunshot wound to his upper body. Police say he's not cooperating with the investigation. Police believe a second man was also injured, but never went to hospital. Geordie Wright, 7 News.
Statue vandals have struck again, this time targeting a monument of Queen Victoria in Geelong. They graffitied on the statue's pedestal, writing, "The colony will fall." It's the latest in a recent spate of attacks on colonial statues across Victoria. A pre-dawn convoy carrying aid in Gaza has turned deadly after Israeli troops opened fire on a crowd of hungry Palestinians. At least 100 people were killed, but Israel claims its soldiers did nothing wrong.
Still in motion, starving Palestinians descend on a convoy of aid trucks. Surging forward, they swarm the vehicles, desperate for a share of the life-saving supplies inside. What happens next is now contested, but it's left more than 100 dead and more than 750 injured. We were surprised by Israeli tanks, this man says. They came out and opened fire. We went to get food and flour, according to another, and they started shooting us. Their claims Israel denies, only there to secure the humanitarian corridor, it says, releasing this edited footage, admitting warning shots were fired before weapons were turned on some Palestinians approaching IDF troops.
When the hundreds became thousands and things got out of hand, the tank commander decided to retreat.
Israel says many of the deaths were caused by spooked Gazan drivers ploughing through the desperate crush of people. The International Criminal Court is now vowing to investigate.
We will be monitoring that investigation closely and pressing for answers.
As mediators now confront the question, will this jeopardise plans for a ceasefire?
I know it will.
In a 5-month war that's now taken more than 30,000 Palestinian lives. In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
New laws have come into effect, making it harder for teenagers to get their hands on vapes. From today, it's now illegal to import reusable vapes without a licence and a permit. It's the latest phase of a government crackdown after disposable vapes were banned at the start of the year. The therapeutic variety will still be available in pharmacies to customers with a prescription. Victims of the White Island volcano disaster have been awarded $10 million compensation by a New Zealand court. 22 people died, including 17 Australians, in the 2019 eruption. The court ordered 4 tour companies to pay compensation to victims and their families. Each company was found to have failed health and safety obligations. A new competitor is promising to shake up international travel, offering flights from Melbourne to Europe 30% cheaper. It's put price pressure on Qantas, which today launched Australia's newest plane.
Look up and you'll see new players in the sky. A fresh Airbus for Qantas. And a fresh start for Turkish Airlines in Australia, already bringing down airfares.
International airfares down on average about 14% just over the last few months.
The Airbus A220's first commercial flight went from Melbourne to Canberra.
All cabin baggage needs to be stowed in the overhead lockers.
It seats 137 and gradually replaces the Boeing 717.
We get to fly at higher altitudes, so we remain clear of the majority of the weather. So, generally a nice, smooth and quiet flight.
The range of the old Boeing is almost doubled by the new Airbus. Potential for new routes for the nimble aircraft.
It's a huge day for AvGeeks. Flying on the new A220 Airbus is basically a dream come true.
So what might passengers notice on board? Well, for starters, there's no seat-back entertainment unit, but there is Wi-Fi. The other point is the windows. They're huge, the biggest windows of any single-aisle aircraft. Airbus designers claim on board it gives you a sense of having more room.
I think it's the first time they actually have Wi-Fi on a regional jet, so Wi-Fi speed's pretty fast as well.
It also burns 25% less fuel. Turkish Airlines begins flying here tomorrow with sale fares. Melbourne to Istanbul, 1,500 return, at least 30% cheaper than similar flights with other airlines.
That extra capacity in the market will likely put downward pressure on fares, particularly into Europe.
There's going to be probably another 9 or 10% decrease over the next 6 months.
Turkish Airlines is planning Sydney flights soon. Blake Johnson, 7 News.
Tim Watson's here with a look ahead to sport. And Tim, it's go time for the Hawks.
Mitch, they've made their intentions clear on the eve of the season. Coming up, we speak exclusively to Sam Mitchell on his health battles and why the Hawks are no longer rebuilding. The Saints forward line fit and firing with their injury troubles behind them. An embarrassing mix-up for the locals in New Zealand as Steve Smith's struggles continue, and we'll show you the snake that held up a game of footy. I'll see you again soon.
OK, thanks very much, Tim. Caffeine lovers are facing a price hit, with experts predicting we'll be paying $7 a cup as a Melbourne-made coffee is crowned the best in the world. Also, a wild Bayside brawl leaves a man fighting for life. Also coming up, workers evacuated, buildings shut down as a sinkhole opens up. Later, the tests that expose the ugly truth hiding in makeup brushes.
And today was lovely, while the weekend is on the cool side. I'll have full details later in 7 News.
A man in his 50s is fighting for life in hospital after a wild brawl in St Kilda. Emergency crews were called to busy Ackland Street just after 8 this morning to find the victim with critical head injuries.
We believe that these parties were known to each other and there's no ongoing threat to the community.
A 40-year-old man was arrested at the scene. Global social media giant Meta is staring down a confrontation with the federal government after announcing it's scrapping a deal to fund Australian news publishers. Facebook and Instagram's owner will stop paying for content, a move criticised as a threat to journalism.
The social media giant delivering the news that it won't be delivering on news anymore. Facebook refusing to renew deals with Australian media worth an estimated $70 million a year.
This is a dereliction of its responsibility to Australia.
Its owners Meta saying it's dropping its news tab. We know that people don't come to Facebook for news and political content. News makes up less than 3% of what people around the world see in their Facebook feed. Saying that Australian media can still post content on Facebook, but the $1 trillion-plus company won't pay for it.
Journalism is important, and the idea that research and work done by others can be taken for free is simply untenable. That's not the Australian way.
But it seems to be the Facebook way. In 2021, its 5-day news blackout affected not just media but emergency services, Weather Bureau and charities before the current rules were agreed.
This is going to cost Australian jobs. It's going to mean less Australian news.
With calls for the government to now designate Facebook, requiring it to negotiate a deal for content. Channel 7's owners Seven West Media agreeing Meta need to be designated. The case has not only been made but proven.
This is a large multinational company protecting its profits against the interests of the community, and that's something we should all be extremely concerned about.
Paul Kadak, 7 News.
A 2-storey office block in Sydney is on the brink of collapse after a 10-metre sinkhole opened up early this morning. Workers inside were forced to flee the building. It's believed tunnelling works on a nearby freeway may have caused the sinkhole to form. No one was injured. Caffeine lovers are facing a fresh price hike, with baristas predicting we'll soon be paying as much as $7 for a cup of coffee. But there are bargain alternatives, including the world's best at Aldi.
Roasted in the outer western suburbs and sold at your local Aldi. This, according to the Super Bowl of coffee competitions, is among the world's best. Crowned overall winner of the large chain champion category at the Global Golden Bean Awards.
You're talking about the chocolates, caramels, nutty type flavours which work really well with milk or as an espresso.
Lazio beans are roasted in Truganino. Prices vary but range between $12 and $22 a kilo.
The quality of the coffee remains consistent, and I think that's one of the big things for Aldi customers in store. They're able to come in there and it's exactly the same today, tomorrow as it was last year.
Well, Melbourne is the home of coffee for the world, so, you know, it shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone that the best chain coffee is roasted here.
It comes as the cost of a coffee at your local continues to rise due to a variety of local and global factors. It's forcing many Melburnians hit by the cost of living crunch to search for cheaper alternatives. The average cup of cafe coffee will set you back around $5. That could rise to $7 soon.
Green coffee prices are going up, wages are going up, milk prices are going up. It is harder for cafes to actually earn money.
It was a dark secret for a while. I get my coffee from Aldi, but now as we continue to win the awards, people are going, I drink that at home.
Sonia Marinelli, 7 News.
Generous tradies have donated their time to build a home in Tarneet, which will be auctioned on Good Friday, with all proceeds going to the annual Royal Children's Hospital appeal.
Every dollar makes a difference. Give what you can, and the Cherry House is such an important part, so we're really excited.
Melbourne star Ben Brown joined patients and their parents for a tour of the 4-bedroom home. Melbourne motorists are caught in a petrol super cycle, with volatile prices 50 cents a litre higher in the same suburb. Next, how you can save at the touch of a button. Also ahead, Vladimir Putin's nuclear warning to NATO. Prince William's powerful gesture. And a big freeze with a difference. The Aussie who went for a 1K swim in Antarctica in nothing more than his budgie smugglers. Melbourne motorists are being caught out by some of the most volatile petrol prices in the nation. But fuel experts say drivers can now shop around at the touch of a button.
Motorists spend an average of $3,200 a year on fuel, and Melbourne petrol prices are almost as unpredictable as our weather.
It does get a bit ridiculous sometimes.
There is no regulation on prices in Australia. That means that some servos are going to be really high, also means some are going to be really low.
When you consider there are days you're paying $1.60, then you're paying $2, $2.20 the following days, yeah, a bit expensive.
Melbourne's volatile prices were on show yesterday. $2.32 a litre at Ampol in Preston South. Just 700 metres away at BP Preston, fuel was almost 55 cents a litre less. Today, prices are peaking in Albert Park and South Melbourne, while some of the best value for money options are in Coburg North and Moonee Ponds.
That is a remarkable gap when you think about the fact that they're selling effectively the same product.
Fuel experts are encouraging motorists to fill up at independent retailers where prices are often more competitive. They're also advising drivers to fill up now with prices set to jump. The tap of technology can go a long way with databases including Motormouth, Petrol Spy and the RACV Arrivo app, all helping motorists save.
If you're not going to be heading to a cheaper suburb, do your research before you fill up.
Ainsley Kosh, 7 News.
The government and opposition now both support Australia's top spy boss for deciding against naming the former politician accused of selling secrets to foreign spies. Anthony Albanese has rejected calls to reveal the individual's identity under parliamentary privilege.
The idea that any ministry in my government will just go out against the wishes of the ASIO Director General, I find quite extraordinary.
I think it casts a cloud over former MPs, and that's why, I think if you can, you should name the person, but Mr Burgess has outlined why he can't. We accept that advice.
Mike Burgess says ASIO needs to protect sources and the individual is no longer a threat. Overseas, Vladimir Putin has threatened nuclear war if NATO troops are deployed to Ukraine. The Russian president's warning comes as Western leaders grapple with what to do next.
The Russian president's annual address to Parliament. Vladimir Putin promising a glimpse into the future with this warning to the West.
All this really presents a threat of a conflict with the use of nuclear weapons and therefore the destruction of civilization. Don't they understand any of this?
Promising Russia's nuclear arsenal is in full combat readiness, taken as a pointed response to the suggestion from the French president NATO troops could be sent to Ukraine. The Russian leader called the conflict a defensive operation, praised Russian business for withstanding Western sanctions, but made no mention of opposition leader Alexei Navalny, his funeral to be held in the coming hours. Vladimir Putin's rhetoric designed not just to be heard around the world, but at home too. Russians go to the polls in a fortnight. A presidential election few outside the country expect to be free nor fair. If Putin wins, as expected, he'll be in power until at least 2030. By then, he'll be 77. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
Joe Biden says he wants to work with Donald Trump in a rare show of bipartisan initiative. The presidential rivals both visited the US-Mexico border, which shapes as a major election issue. Trump leading the charge to shoot down Biden's border control plan.
Here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Join me, or I'll join you. Instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done?
Working together seems unlikely, though, with claims of a migrant crime wave only helping Trump's cause. Prince William has returned to public duties, visiting a London synagogue where he expressed his and Kate's extreme concern over the rise of anti-Semitism. William met with young members of the Jewish community, as well as 94-year-old Holocaust survivor Renee Salt. And with King Charles still out of action, Queen Camilla hosted the Ukrainian First Lady at Clarence House. An Australian extreme swimmer has just joined a rare list as one of only a handful to have ever swum the North and the South Pole. The achievement all the more remarkable because he did it in his budgie smugglers.
They call him the Sea Bull. And this was Linton Mortenson's reaction after his latest feat of extreme ocean swimming.
It's hard work!
This week, the 59-year-old Queenslander swam 1 kilometre in Antarctica, the water's just above 0 degrees.
17:22!
That's 17 minutes and 22 seconds in freezing water, wearing only his budgie smugglers' goggles and cap.
It's brutal as soon as you hop in. It's ice piercing through the veins. It's sensory overload.
He's no novice, having swum the English Channel, Manhattan Island, Lord Howe Island, and this South Pole effort follows his North Pole ice mile in 2022. Recovering can be the most painful part.
It's probably like hammers being smashed on your hands and feet because the blood leaves the extremities and goes to protect your vital organs.
But afterwards, the feeling is euphoric.
You're buzzing on your body's the greatest pharmacy in the world.
Linton will be inducted into the Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame in May. Alexandra Cullen, 7 News.
Good on you, Linton. Rescuers have faced a race against time and gravity to save a worker from being buried alive. The miracle mission is next on 7 News. Also ahead, the tests that expose the ugly truth hiding in makeup brushes. The new link between the air we breathe and Alzheimer's disease. And the Melbourne paramedics with a special reason to run for the kids. A farmer has been rescued after he was trapped under 50 tonnes of grain in a silo collapse in northern Queensland. Police body cameras captured the life-saving mission to save the father. After 2 hours, he was pulled to safety.
1, 2, 3, go. Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
The farmer was airlifted to hospital and will require surgery for his injuries. To finance news now, and the ASX has set a new 100-day high. Here's Angela Cox.
Yes, and it's good news even if you don't have shares, because your super fund probably invests in Australian companies. The market closing 47 points higher. The big winner, Life 360, a mobile app parents use to track their kids, jumping 38%. Bitcoin hit an Australian dollar record price. Gold added 1%. And the cost of raiding our superannuation piggy banks is becoming clearer. Industry super funds estimated we pulled out $38 billion in early withdrawals, and it will hurt us in the long run. A 30-year-old who withdrew the maximum $20,000 from their super will be roughly $90,000 worse off in retirement. It's estimated every 20-year-old will pay at least $3,000 more in tax to cover the shortfall.
Thanks, Ange. Dermatologists are warning about the dirty secrets of makeup brushes, often a breeding ground for bacteria. If left uncleaned, they can cause infection and a host of skin problems.
Makeup brushes and sponges are breeding ground for bacteria.
A dirty makeup brush is a germ factory.
Used daily and without being washed, they accumulate dead skin cells, dirt and oil, causing anything from clogged pores and skin breakouts to nasty infections. To find out what's really lurking within, we took some for testing, where they were sorted, swabbed, studied, and the results...
I wasn't particularly surprised. Longer in between washes, the higher the bacterial load on that brush.
The most interesting was the freshly washed makeup sponge.
As you can see, that's heavily contaminated.
Because it was still damp, it had very high levels of bacteria and also tested positive to Staphylococcus and Pseudomonas, a type of germ that can cause infections.
Bacteria really love the presence of water, so if there's no water, there's nothing really for them to grow on. I would definitely let them dry.
Clearly, cleaning needs to be an important part of your beauty routine. Dermatologists say for personal use, you need to be doing it at least weekly.
Rinse it under lukewarm water and then dip it in a bowl with gentle or baby shampoo and give it a nice little swirl and then re-rinse it. So rinse and repeat.
Those with acne should be more rigorous, and when the brush loses shape and bristles start falling out, it's time to throw it out. Georgia Holland, 7 News.
Australian researchers believe there may be a link between Alzheimer's disease and a tiny particle found in air pollution. Traces of a form of iron known as magnetite have previously been found in the brains of people with the disease. A University of Technology team studying the effects of magnetite on mice found it can increase anxiety and short-term memory loss. They say fewer than 1% of Alzheimer's cases are inherited, so environment and lifestyle must play a key role. Melbourne frontline workers are lacing up their shoes ahead of this month's Run for the Kids. The paramedics will join thousands of competitors in the countdown to the annual Good Friday appeal.
More than 50 paramedics and Ambulance Victoria staff have signed up, inspired to run for the kids by one of their own.
He just wouldn't be with us today if it wasn't for, RCH being world leaders in what they do.
Brave Finley Emery was born with severe spina bifida. His paramedic dad's colleagues across the state raising funds for the Good Friday appeal in the little boy's honour.
Obviously this year we've got someone really close to our heart, with Finlay being the face of the Good Friday appeal, one of our paramedics' sons, so that's really driving our fundraising campaign.
We want to get over last year's number. We had 19,000, so over 20,000, and the numbers are looking really good.
Olympic legend Steve Monaghetti is training for the 14.4 kilometre long course, and there's a 4.7k option for those who prefer to walk or jog on March 17.
You don't have to be super fit.
It's an amazing course. It's a really great way to see the city, and running over the Balti Bridge is definitely an experience.
Since it started, Run for the Kids has raised more than $23 million for the Good Friday appeal. It's not too late to enter at runforthekids.com.au. Jackie Quist, 7 News.
And Steve looks in good nick. Sport is next with Tim Watson. And Tim, the Bulldogs' big guns are back.
Mitch, it's their final hit out before the season proper, but one star is touch and go for round one. That's next. Also, we're live to Launceston as the Hawks reveal their big plans to climb the ladder. A pre-season of promise from Jake Stringer, who shows off his tricks against the Cats. A road snake causes problems in Sydney, while Taylor Adams has a fresh injury fight on his hands. And Steve Smith's struggles continue in New Zealand after a Kiwi collapse. Welcome back. The Scott brothers have put rivalry aside, driving down the highway together for this afternoon's pre-season hit out between Geelong and Essendon. Some big-name Bombers bouncing back from last week's shocker against the Saints.
Their final challenge before the season kicks off. Jake Stringer proving how important he can be for the Bombers. Essendon with a 3-point lead at half-time. The twin coaches driving to their pre-season clash together. A Cats legend has signed on at the Saints. Corey Enright will coach under Ross Lyon's leadership for another 2 years.
He's obviously well respected. He's been in the system for a long time. Someone for me to really learn off. He's been great so far, and looking forward to continue to work with him.
St Kilda's forward line in better shape than this time a year ago. Tim Membry back to full fitness, so too Max King after 3 shoulder procedures in 2023.
He's really confident in his shoulder, and his last sort of month in particular at training, he's been, he looks like the Maxi of old, so that's good.
The Saints will take on North Melbourne this Sunday, their final challenge before the season begins, where they'll then face the Cats in round 1.
It's nothing better to go down there and have a party, and hopefully knock them off on their home ground would be great.
A rogue snake making an appearance in Sydney's clash with Brisbane last night. Sydney's loss further soured by a knee injury to Taylor Adams and is now in doubt for next week's season opener against the D's. Kate Massey, 7 News.
The Western Bulldogs have brought the big guns back for their final hit out of the pre-season. Theo Doropoulos is in Launceston ahead of tomorrow's clash with the Hawks. And Theo, it's go time for Luke Beveridge.
Certainly is, Tim. The only real concern for him is Bailey Dale. He won't play, nursing a bit of hamstring tightness, and he is touch and go for round 1. Outside of that, a near full-strength side for the Dogs. Marcus Bontempelli, Tim English and Adam Treloar all back in. As for the Hawks, no Jack Gunston or Josh Weddle, but a full look at Ethan Phillips down back. Tomorrow night, an important platform ahead of Hawthorn's round 1 clash with Essendon in 2 weeks' time. 7 wins under Sam Mitchell last season. Now there's a growing expectation Hawthorn takes another step forward in the coach's 3rd year in charge.
We're still going to have a heavy development focus in how we go about things, but there is an expectation of some performance now. So we start to have a look at how are we playing.
We've had a big focus throughout the pre-season of moving from a development phase to a performance phase where we're all about pushing up the ladder now.
That push coming from a side with wins over grand finalists Collingwood and Brisbane in 2023. Now with a new look forward line led by Mitch Lewis, plus Mabior Chol, Jack Ginnivan and pick 5 Nick Watson.
On paper we're more potent in front of the ball. How that displays itself and how it manifests itself in front of the ball is still a challenge for us. We're not there yet.
The coach playing down concerns about his side's defensive makeup following a raft of off-season injuries, implementing key lessons at Waverley after spending a week with Aussie coaching guru Ange Postecoglou.
I was really pleased with how, when I compared our development programs, I was really happy with that. And I thought he just organised his staff fantastically well, and we brought Brett Ratton in to help me with that.
It's now full steam ahead for Mitchell after a pre-season bout of pneumonia in New York.
I was fortunate I had a very strong family around me, but we're all back to full health and happy and excited for the season to start.
Theodoropoulos, 7 News.
To cricket, and a third ball duck from Steve Smith has soured a dominant day for Australia in the first test against New Zealand. Cameron Green and Josh Hazlewood provided a rare century stand before the Kiwis crumbled with the bat.
Resuming on 103.
Oh, goodness me.
Cameron Green's coming of age as test number 4 continued in a last wicket stand to infuriate the hosts.
Beautiful.
Josh Hazlewood's 22, Green's career high 174 not out.
And that has been summoning classy stuff.
From 4 for 89 to 383.
That's a big win for the Aussies.
From none for 12.
Oh, there it is.
A Kiwi debacle. Kane Williamson run out second ball.
Got to hurry, he's a mix-up.
After a mid-pitch collision with Will Young. Whiz-kid Rachin Ravindra next.
And the end, he's gone.
3 for none in 6 balls. 3 times the Black Caps lost wickets in runless clumps. 2 at 29.
Is there a bet on that? I think there is.
Another 2 at 113. Glenn Phillips 71 and Matt Henry's late hitting saved some face. 204 ahead, Steve Smith.
Got him!
A third ball duck. The peril of opening late in the day. Marnus Labuschagne went for 2, 3 runs for the match. A slump growing deeper. The Aussies will resume with night watchman Lyon just intact. Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
Aussies Oscar Piastri and Dan Ricciardo showed plenty of promise ahead of the Bahrain Grand Prix. After the first practice session, Ricciardo topped the timesheets while Piastri was 3rd fastest. They later slipped down the order in the second session ahead of qualifying tonight. Lewis Hamilton was fastest while Max Verstappen was 6th. And it's good to see the twin Scott brothers sharing a ride to the footy today.
Yes, isn't it? Brotherly love.
It's very relaxed.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tim. Jane Bunn is next with the forecast. And Jane, it was a lovely Friday, but I'm guessing it won't last.
Oh, Mitch, it is unfortunate timing for the weekend, but cloud and showers, they're both on their way. I'll have the full details next.
On 7 News, inside a record-breaking dream home. 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms. Property Pulse on 7 News at 6. The new warning. Nicotine alternatives marketed as the new vape. How they're illegally making it to our shores. Plus, make your money go further. The top 5 holiday destinations to get bang for your Aussie buck. And beating 330-itis. The healthy alternatives for your afternoon sugar hit. Only on Weekend Sunrise.
Hello again. Today's pleasant weather isn't going to last into the weekend. Today was gorgeous, a proper summer's day on the first day of autumn. It quickly warmed from 14 and peaked at 28 in the city. Bright blue skies, except if you look northwards where there's a high cloud. 28 is well above what we average in March. It's 24. Nights average 13. There's 50 millimetres of rain. Earlier today, temperatures fell to the single digits in Coldstream and Hastings. And there was local fog before all of that sunshine. Winds were a light to moderate southerly, so it was warmer this afternoon in the north than it was near the coast. And most are actually quite cooler than that now, thanks to the southerly that has become breezy. There is lots of sunshine in Victoria, mixed with sheets of high cloud. It is generally dry on our side of the border, but storms are able to pop up. We've had them near Deniliquin and Wagga Wagga and right near Wodonga, and there's more moving near Mildura now. Temperatures are warm to the low side of hot, except in coastal parts that face southwest. There is a zigzag pattern over Australia. Moist air, showers and thunderstorms feeding in from the Pacific and heading right across the north. Then they circle around a low in the west and spread back down across the south. Now, most of that activity is just north of Victoria. Meanwhile, a cold front is crossing Tasmania, introducing a bit of cooler air into the southeast. Here's the warmth and low-grade heat of today. But watch the cooler air come in over the weekend, peaking on Sunday as a second front arrives. Now, it's not extreme, rather a slight chill in the air for the first weekend of autumn. Around the nation, tomorrow, hot and sunny for Brisbane. Showers and thunderstorms are likely in Sydney and Perth. Just a bit of high cloud in Adelaide. There's no rain there. To Victoria, grey skies extend across the south. We have showers that don't add up to much, mainly during the morning. In the north, sunshine and high cloud. Storms may graze the far northwest, mainly in the morning. Light to moderate southerly winds, breezy near the coast and feeling a bit cool there. Closer in, it was lovely today, but tomorrow we're expecting mostly cloudy skies for the morning and early afternoon, with these showers passing through. They'll bring a millimetre or two at best, so it's annoying rather than helpful. The wind is cool, but sunshine slowly returns during the afternoon for a cool but dry Saturday night. The city is fairly grey in the morning, with showers passing through, gradually turning sunny in the afternoon. We only peak at 20 or 21. To the 8-day outlook, Sunday's the opposite. It begins clear and then deteriorates as it goes on. So we'll have cloud building and the odd shower passing through during the afternoon. It is only 20. There'll be a bite to that wind. 22 on Monday as sunshine returns in the afternoon. 31 on Tuesday, 33 before a change on Wednesday. Not cold behind that, and some heat to follow. Grey skies, showers in the morning, then gradually turning sunny, but about 21, Mitch.
OK, we'll have to take that one. Thank you, Jane. And that's the way it is this Friday, the 1st of March. Thanks for your company. For now, from the 7 News team, good night.
Stream 7 News live and on demand on 7plus and stay informed on 7news.com.au. Nobody knows news better.